It is times like these when I wished I could just run away and never look back. I wanted to scream, but I could only cry internally from all the stress that came from my family. My father and my stepmother always go at each other's neck like a couple of lions fighting over a piece of meat. There is no peace. Sometimes I wish I could crawl into a hole and never come out of it. I desperately pray to God that every day would at least get a little better, but it never does. Nothing never gets better. The only thing I look forward to is sleep. The feeling of suppression and neglect from my stepmother increases with every passing day. Sometimes I lay in bed wondering if my family or friends would even miss me if I went away. Would people cry? The only love I ever felt was from my father, but lately things have taken a turn for the worse. Fights have gotten more violent, and there were days I would find my father crying, praying for a miracle to happen. Night fell, and I waited in my room for about several hours. The grating damp noise of the clock above contributed to my frustration. I did not hear my father and stepmother arguing anymore. My anxiety grew, and in my haste, I grabbed the doorknob, and right when I was about to turn the door, it swung open. A weary man stood at the doorway. I gazed upon his tired face and slowly walked towards him. It was my dad, beaten, broken and bruised from the abuse my stepmother inflicted upon him. Then and there, I decided enough was enough. I lost all train of thought and grabbed my father's hand. I forced my way through my stepmother by pushing her aside, seeing the rage plaster upon her face. Quickly, I put my father in the car on the passenger side and scooted over to the driver's side. I heard my stepmother foul words cursing out my name. "Alexa!" She yelled it out in a hoarse voice. My only decree was to take my father away from here as far as I could. I rapidly struggled to find the keys to the car. A sudden bang on the car window put me in a state of shock as I saw my own stepmother holding up a baseball bat and hitting it against the glass of the window. I cried out in terror and looked at my stepmother as I scurried to find my father's keys in the glove compartment. My father screamed and quickly grabbed the keys from the glove compartment, pushed me out of the driver's seat, and started up the car as he drives off, leaving a trail of smoke and skid marks upon the driveway. Panic rose. I pleaded to my father to slow down. The car only sped up more, and my father lost control of the car. I could feel the vehicle spin out of control. A sudden thrashing of the car caused me and my father's bodies to shake in turbulence while the car impacted a streetlight. The restraints from the seatbelt that kept me secured in my car broke and threw me out of the front window of the car. I landed several feet away from the crash and knocked out instantly upon impact. It felt very isolated. The cold hard ground touching me created goosebumps upon my skin, triggering my eyes to open up immediately. I was gripped with a sudden strong pain in my head from the hard landing. I suffered from the crash. My hands touched the ground, and strangely, I hear absolute silence. There was no people or birds chirping. The alarm coming from the car remained detailed and lifeless. Only a distinct cool breeze hit my face, blowing my hair slightly into the wind. I slowly brought myself to my feet while looking around. I called out for my dad. "Dad?" No answer. I hollered out again, Still no answer. To such an extent, my voice began to grow exhausted, and I had to stop before I had lost my voice. Worn out, I receded away and kept rubbing my eyes. The more I rubbed, the more light faded away into darkness. An uneasy feeling showered over me, and when I opened my eyes, I was blinded by a single spotlight. Only utter obscurity surrounded me. A faint jingling sound echoed in and out through my ears. The disembodied laughter added more to my anxieties. I called out, hoping it was my father. Hello? Dad, is that you? I waited several minutes for a reply, but none came forth to confirm my fears. I proceeded to trail backwards. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up straight as I quickly turned around. There, in colours of blue, magenta and teal, stood a towering gesture. The gesture carried a coquettish appearance about him. He looked bored and quickly took notice that I was present. He did not make a single noise. The only sound emitting from him was the faint jingling of bells tied to the ends of his blue hair. My eyes could not break away from his characteristics. His flamboyant, vibrant features brought out so much life upon his own being, making him stand out more. The gesture came closer to me with a grin that I wasn't sure if to trust or not. I don't understand where he came from, or how he came to be in this dark oblivion. The gesture then caught my attention and began to do tricks which would amaze anyone's eye. One of his tricks, he did make a purple balloon magically appear out of his hand. He looked at me again and smiled. The balloon had a smiley face upon it. He offered it to me, but I didn't want to take it, especially because he was a stranger to me. I do not know where he came from, and I had no time to be entertained by him. I had to find my father. So I simply took a few steps back and turned around, only to have him once again in front of me. The fool looked disappointed and nodded no. He entirely again offered me the purple balloon. I could not stand the eerie silence between me and him, so I gathered some courage and spoke up. "Who are you?" I whispered. The gesture still did not answer. I asked again, and still he did not answer. But with every question I asked him, he would pull out a card with a letter upon it. I saw him magically make the card dance around him, spelling out a name. I glared at the cards and spelled out the name he presented to me. "Candy Pop?" I answered back. The only response he would give me was his wide, long grin. I don't know why, but each time he would smirk, it sent chills down my spine. I somehow felt something was wrong, yet I did not know what. He began once again to do tricks, and this time he made the purple balloon disappear from its hands, and made one blue lollipop appear, then another, and another would appear. Finally, he had 3 lollipops in his hand, each unlike from each other. I wasn't sure what to say, or what else to ask him. He wasn't speaking to me, so I only watched in silence. He opened my hand and placed the lollipops inside, and closed his hand into a fist. Once again, the gesture made that same purple balloon reappear, but he backed away and crouched. The only sound I could hear was the sound of plastic being stretched quite a bit. When he turned around towards me, he finished creating the shape of a flower out of the balloon. The gesture presented a sweet and kind smile on his face. I was not sure why he was persistent for me to take his balloon. Maybe he just wanted to befriend me. So finally, I decided to trust him and accepted his balloon. I examined the balloon and gazed up at Candy Pop's expression. It changed from sweet and kind to one of a sinister. I backed away and hugged the balloon tightly. I felt my body begin to elevate off the ground, higher and higher into the light. I could not stop myself from floating. What is this? Frantically I stuttered. No matter what I did, I could not take my hands off the balloon. The light above grew brighter and brighter. I could see myself getting closer towards the burning light. I gazed back down and noticed the ominous gesture waved goodbye to me. My eyes tried focusing on Candy Pop. I took note that his shadow did not match his own figure. Candy Pop's shadow cast upon the floor plastered the shape of a devil in disguise. In that precise moment, I gazed back at the gesture, his face distorted. I could hear multiple whispers surround me, and at that instant, I felt my head spinning. I closed my eyes tightly and wishing that whatever I was dreaming to be over. The bright lights burned brighter until I heard my father's voice wake me up from my dream. "Alexa! Alexa, wake up! Alexa!" My father called out to me. My entire body felt so cold, as if I had been dead for quite some time. Slowly my eyes opened, and the bright lights became clearer, and slowly focused into clarity of the beaming streetlights above me. My father crouched next to me, checking if I was all right. Almost immediately, I embraced him with a hug, crying excessively, ignoring the pain. Next thing I knew, I blacked out from the loss of blood. My father quickly took me to the hospital. My dad was kind enough to carry me. He was exhausted, but he ran all the way. Several weeks had passed since the car crash, but still, I could not shake the feeling something still was wrong. I simply shrugged off these thoughts and took a deep breath. Deep down, I was glad that we got far away from my stepmother, and extremely happy I survived the accident, along with my father. The rain battered against my window, and in that moment of deep thoughts, the doctor startled me by opening the door. My heart jumped, and I stayed quiet for a moment. I then figured he was probably here to check on how I was progressing. I slowly moved my head in his direction, and saw his back is facing me. The doctor turned to face me, and my heart sank to the bottom of my stomach. I noticed he was holding something in his hand as he quietly spoke to me. "You popped the last balloon I gave you, but not to worry, Alexa. I got you a new one."
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment below. All feedback, good or otherwise, is always appreciated. If you have any creepy stories of your own, or have any topics that you would like me to cover, feel free to send them in via any of my social media. You can find all links to my social media in the description below. Until next time guys, make sure you lock your doors, stay safe, and I'll see you next video.